Hello once again, everyone. It's Eric Wilhelm here, a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. This is the Valley's most in-depth, detailed, geeky weather video. Sometimes this video gets kind of long, but sometimes we have a lot to talk about, and I'm not restricted for time like I am on TV, where I only get a couple of minutes to tell you about the weather each evening. So if you need a lot of detail in your forecasts and or you just really like the weather and astronomy and other sciencey stuff, this is the video for you. We do these each weekday evening. And today, of course, the story at the start of the day was cold. It was bone chilling out there. We had low temperatures this morning in the 20s in a few backyards. Newcastle over to Boardman along 224. Some of the colder spots this morning. Sub-freezing temperatures were pretty common once again. This, today, was the, 8th day in a row of cooler than average high temperatures. We've only notched one warmer than average day in May so far. That was on the first day of the month. And we're running 6 degrees below the average. Now, this is a big exception, of course. If you've been following some of my stats that I throw out there, in 2016 and the first several months of 2017, we've only had a few cooler than average months, and they haven't been cooler than average by a big margin. Our May forecast, which we put out at the very end of April, suggested that May may be a fair amount cooler than average, and certainly a big change from what we've gotten used to in the overall weather pattern since actually late in 2015. It's been an overall very warm pattern for about a year and a half or so. So this morning with our sub-freezing temperatures, probably the last time we'll see it in the spring season. So when we look back at the calendar in 2017, the growing season will officially have begun tomorrow. I do think that this morning's was our last freeze of the season, and we define the growing season as the last freeze in spring to the first freeze in the fall. And here around the Mahoning and Shenango Valleys, our average growing season is about 162 days, which, let's see, that works out to about 5.5 months approximately. That's on average. Some years, of course, the growing season's a lot longer. Some it's a lot shorter. We've had 2 shorter than average years in a row in 2015 and 2016. We'll see what this year brings, but the growing season officially will get underway tomorrow. Of course, a lot of people have planted. Everything is growing like crazy, but the technical definition of the growing season, again, the last freeze to the first freeze. So, solar summer is something that we talk about at this time of the year. We define seasons astronomically, that's what most people are familiar with. Meteorologically, so in other words, spring meteorologically is March, April, May. We also have solar seasons. It's just another way to kind of look at things. And this is basically the 3 months of the year that have the most daylight. The days are the longest during this 3-month stretch, from roughly now through about August the 5th. Everything peaks, of course, on the summer solstice, the first day of summer. That's the longest day or stretch of days of the year in terms of amount of daylight. So the solar summer kind of surrounds the solar summer solstice, I should say. All right, so we have an almost full moon up there tonight. It'll be technically full tomorrow morning. Now, most people won't notice, but technically this is a pretty small full moon. It's kind of the opposite of a supermoon. It's a full moon that's on the small side because the moon is at its part of its orbit around the Earth that it's farthest away from the Earth. So when we have a full moon and it also coincides with the moon being at its closest point in its orbit, we call that a supermoon. Well, this is kind of the opposite of that. The moon's orbit around the Earth is not a perfect circle. It's more of an oval, and there are times the moon is closer to us than other times. So, kind of an interesting little fact. We do have some clouds around this evening. We had these high kind of altostratus and cirrostratus clouds push in earlier on this afternoon after a bright and sunny and gorgeous morning. Severe weather threat out across the front range of the Rockies once again this evening. When I recorded Weather Geeks this evening at about 1:15 till you can see those clouds in the sky. It's a beautiful evening, but it's not quite as pristine looking as it was earlier on in the day. All right, tomorrow's big picture. We are expecting a day very close to and maybe even warmer than average tomorrow. Our average high is around 67, I should say, and our forecast is for 68 tomorrow afternoon. So a rare warm day in this pattern. 14 hours and 21 minutes of daylight for tomorrow. And if May ended today, it would be the coolest on record. Now it's still pretty early in the month. But if the month magically ended today, it would be the coolest May on record. Rainfall so far, while we've been plagued with some rain, we haven't had a tremendous amount of heavy rain. So it's added up to 1.86 inches. That's really, not much to write home about in the rain gauge so far this month. All right, I think, again, tomorrow's going to be a pretty nice day. We'll see some fair weather clouds here and there, but a dry day, a pleasant day. We're on the north side of this frontal boundary. That'll continue to be the kind of the focusing mechanism for showers around Cincinnati and Louisville tomorrow. Then as we go towards Thursday and Friday, unfortunately, our forecast has taken a turn towards the wetter for the end of the week, particularly on Friday, I think. Thursday, this particular model's not exactly lighting things up with a lot of rain, but I could see where there's a couple of showers around on Thursday. The better chance might be Thursday night and into parts of Friday. Don't think Friday is a totally rainy day, but there'll be some showers around, and temperatures may struggle as a result. All right, I showed this earlier on social media and on the 6 o'clock news. We've been talking about this for a while, that this cool stretch, of course, will end, and now we're kind of within that range that we can kind of talk about specifics. And the 8 to 14-day outlook, which, of course, begins middle of next week, is looking pretty warm in the eastern U.S., cold out west. But here around Ohio and Pennsylvania, this should be a stretch of pretty warm May weather. We could see temperatures getting into the 70s and 80s on occasion during this stretch, starting middle of next week. Got a little ways to go. It's still a pretty cool pattern through the upcoming weekend before the pattern starts to really change as we go into next week. Let's talk briefly about the Mother's Day holiday weekend. Here's the latest GFS modeling. Let me fast forward here if my internet catches up to Saturday. I think Saturday can start kind of murky with clouds, maybe some patches of drizzle at the start of the day Saturday. Saturday afternoon, we might see some sunshine. This doesn't look like a real sunny day to me, and as a result, it's probably pretty chilly. May not be much better than the mid-50s on Saturday. Sunday for Mother's Day itself, I think it's the better half of the weekend, even though it's still going to be cooler than average. GFS model suggests we have some rain to contend with out in New England. Lousy day for Mother's Day up here, but around here it's not showing much. Now, some of the other modeling, including the European model, tries to bring spotty showers in. I've got a small chance for a shower in the forecast for Sunday, but I do think it is the better half of the upcoming weekend. Then the warm-up really kicks in next week. I've got 72 for a high a week from today on Tuesday, and we might flirt with 80 before that 8 to 14-day stretch is through. So things to look forward to. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks. I hope you tune in tonight on 21 News at 11, and look for another edition of this video, same time, same place, tomorrow evening.